Hello, Paul Winder here, Development and Acquisitions Manager from Residential Estates. In this shortish video, it follows on from a previous video I did about the acquisitions we bring on, especially tenanted properties or resale properties or development properties that have tenants in. As I've previously mentioned in the past, when we sell a property, we sell to investors. We're not an estate agent, so we have a different market. We usually sell off market, which means that it's not available online anywhere, apart from our internal database. So when people come to us, they look to sell, being motivated, I guess. So they have to motivate the price, and then we've got motivated buyers like yourselves who then think, well, okay, there's a good deal. And one thing I often come across is a landlord who's got a property, had a property for quite a while, and has had a tenant in there for quite a while, and that tenant is not paying the market rent. They have been usually on the same rent for quite a while, or had small uplifts, but not in the same way that rents have gone up, certainly over the past year. And for them, I totally understand that. If they bought the property years ago, they've obviously bought it at a much lower than price than what it's worth now. It probably covers everything they need to. They've got a reliable tenant, which is brilliant, always pays on time, does everything right, no voids. Why wouldn't you? You don't want to upset the apple cart at the end of the day. But I always say, well, it's brilliant for you as a landlord, but when it comes to selling, it's not going to help you that much. And this video is the reason why that comes into effect. So here we sell on equity or yield. Equity is what we would call below market value. So below what the property is worth on the open market being available to everyone. This is a closed market, it's available to investors because the property is tenanted. No one's going to buy a tenanted property if they're an owner-occupier. And we sell on yield. And yield is the return on your investment. Now, with the majority of resale properties, London being an exception to the rule, and it's not always the case, but we usually work at a 6% net minimum on the purchase price. The reason for that figure is you can get 5% in a savings account now, so you're going to want more than that, aren't you? And when we work to that figure, this is where the lower rent comes into effect. So I will try and explain very clearly how it benefits you as an investor if someone is selling a property with a lower rent. Let's say you've got a property, it's worth 140k on the open market, everything shows that it's worth 140k, and you have a tenant in there. Next door sold for 140k, it's worth 140k. And if we look at it, that there's two properties of the same. Property A is a property where the landlord's had it for quite a while, had the same tenant in for years, and they are paying £550 a month rent. So that £550, let's say the previous owner bought it at 80k, for example, that easily covers everything he needs. It's growing in value and he's getting a profit each month. Works perfectly fine. Property B, the same property, is up to date with the rent, and they're getting £700 per calendar month. Okay, so property A comes to me and asks to sell. I say, well, okay, I've got to work on a 6% yield. Now, working out a yield is pretty simple, really. You get the rent per year and divide it by 0.06, and that gives you a purchase price at 6% net per year. So the person who's selling property A then has to look at a property price sales of £110,000, because that rent, and we can only base it on the rent it's getting, not the potential. It is what it is, because the person who buys it has then got to look to get the higher rent, got to speak to the tenant or potentially get a new tenant, so there's some effort involved with that. So they're paying 110 grand for that price because that rent is £550 per month. Property B, which is up to date, is £140,000 with a 6% net at £700 a month. Okay, so if I valued up property B with that £700 a month rent at 6% net, it'd be £140,000. Now, you've got to then think which one's the better one to buy. Okay, so you could sell on the open market, you've got no equity in the property because it's worth 140, you're buying it for 140 and you're getting 6%, or you're then going to wait, which is a good return, but then you're going to wait for rents to increase over time. Or you can buy property A, where it's £110,000, yet the property's worth £140,000. You're still getting 6%, but you've also got the opportunity to increase that yield. And then that obviously means property A has at that moment in time got £30,000 of equity in it because it's worth £140,000 and it's got 6% returns. Okay, so you're just buying the property cheaper than you are for someone paying £700 a month. So again, like we always do, we fast forward 3 years, and let's say that property's worth £150,000 now. How it works is this: if you bought property A at £110,000 and you've got your rent up to the new £750 marker, then you're going to have £40,000 equity in the property. Bought it for 110, now worth 150, and you're going to gain 8%, 8.18% net returns. Okay. If you bought property B and you've upped your rent but bought 140, you're going to have 10k in with a slight increase on yields of 6.42%. So the same property, A and B, property A is now worth substantially more to you. So you can remortgage, you can pull your money back out of that property, and you're getting over 8% net returns, as opposed to property B that has got you a small increase in value and a small rental increase. So property A is giving you a head start, and the whole reason why that property being sold through the investment channel that we offer, who wants a quick sale, has been had to sell on a yield. Okay, so if anyone ever comes, or you ever see anything come out that says, okay, this has got a low rent, have a serious look at it, because you've got substantial gains on that property because it's been priced up based on that rent. The reason I exclude London is because it works slightly different. The yields don't work quite as high. There's a lot of below markets, but we do try and get good yields in London. So I just wanted to share that with you to show that, okay, something's getting a low rent, that means it's priced lower, but that doesn't mean it's worth less. So I hope that all makes sense. Keep an eye out. We get a lot of these. There are a lot of landlords who are now trying to get out, not just because of any real reasons, just because it's their time, they want to retire, they want to do whatever. But the good landlords generally don't want voids, so they do keep rents low and they keep that person in for 10, 12 years. And if you want that, you can carry on doing that, and that's not a problem. At some point that tenant may leave, and then you really can maximise the potential and get the true rent on it. But yeah, it just goes to show that when you look at something, just don't look at the face value, look at the potential it's got, because everything that comes through our books that comes out as a single resale or on the development side usually means there's some good room for growth in it, which gives you that head start on your investment journey.